Welcome to All Pro Football Data. My name is Jim Coburn. In today's episode, we're talking about top 10 offensive guards in the 2024 NFL draft class based on analytics. So we're going to be looking at athleticism data and other statistical factors to determine the top 10 guards in this particular draft class. There's a couple prospects that I think some people view as centers or guards and all these other sort of things. But for the most part, we're going to focus in on guards today. They could play either or position, but just guards. So how do we evaluate guards? Well, first off, you look at offensive guard athleticism scores. So one thing we look at is athleticism testing. So vertical, broad jump, 40, short shuttle, 3-cone are measured against their mass density to determine how fast they are for their size, how explosive they are for their size, and of course how flexible they are for their size in terms of change of direction skills. Also, we look at offensive guard EAV scores, which are expected approximate value scores. Expected approximate value takes into account physical measurements such as height, weight, arm length, the athleticism testing that I just mentioned. It also takes into account age, SRS and SOS data. So that is how we're coming up with the top 10. It's going to look at all those different factors at the offensive line position to figure out who are the top 10 best in this class for their data. And number 10 on this list is Nicholas Gargulo from South Carolina. Pros, near elite explosion score and elite flexibility score. Cons, age score is in the 14th percentile. So he's an older prospect. His overall data grade is 91.29 out of 100. But despite being a little bit older, he does have a very impressive athleticism grade. So as you can see here, this is the offensive guard athleticism scores for him. And these are pretty impressive. I mean, there's not a whole lot to really shake your head about here. He is more of a zone blocking scheme guard, so he has more explosiveness and flexibility than he does straight line speed. Those types of players typically work well in zone blocking schemes because they're not asked to pull and get out in space and do those other sort of things. Not to say that he can't do it. It's just that his athleticism traits much more favor a zone blocking scheme more than anything else. We get to number 9 on this list. Delmare Glaze from Maryland. Pros, above average speed score. Cons, below average explosive score. Data grade 92.38 out of 100. In terms of his data, as you can see here, below average explosiveness, above average speed. He's not exactly an elite prospect, but he does have a good age score. And those are factors that kind of push him up a little bit in terms of the ranking here. But he still has a pretty solid overall grade. I would kind of project him as sort of a long-term starting guard in many ways based on his profile. Then we get to number 8 on this list, and Cooper Beebe from Kansas State. Pros, elite speed score and flexibility for his size. Cons, average age, data grade 93.24 out of 100. Taking a look at his athleticism traits, stupid impressive in every single metric. Of course, his age is the biggest thing that kind of lowers his grade. So he's somebody who is very impressive from an athleticism standpoint, but there are some question marks in terms of his age. Then we get to number 7 on this list, and Jarrett Kingston from USC. Pros, elite speed and flexibility. Cons, age score is in the 11th percentile, and his data grade is 93.90 out of 100. Taking a look at his athleticism testing, elite level athleticism across the board, but again, his age is in the 11th percentile. So you're talking about a very old offensive lineman who you hope has that experience to kind of step in and be, great right away. It's not to say that older offensive linemen can't be good prospects. It's just that the data kind of favors age over a lot of different things. But he still has a strong profile. There's a reason why he's a top 10 offensive guard in this particular draft class, and very impressive from that kind of standpoint. Then we get into number 6 on this list, which is another player from formerly from Yale, because I know Nick Gargulo was at Yale and then transferred to South Carolina. Kieran from Yale has a data grade of 93.98 out of 100. I don't really know how to pronounce his name 100%, so I'm not going to embarrass myself here. But he does have an impressive elite projected speed score, which is definitely impressive. When you look at his athleticism traits, 93 percentile in terms of his projected speed. I understand it's going to be a little controversial to put projected speed because he didn't do any testing at the combine or at his pro day, at least what I've been able to get so far. But he still has a pretty impressive profile. He's also a fairly younger prospect as well, and all those factors kind of really help him out. Despite playing at lesser competition, he's still pretty impressive. Then we get to number 5 on this list, and Mason McCormick from South Dakota State. Pros, elite explosiveness and flexibility. Cons are his level of competition. His data grade is 95.08 out of 100. So biggest things for him is great athleticism traits across the board, but where did he play it? He played at South Dakota State. Those are the biggest things that kind of lower his grade. As you can see here, elite explosiveness, near elite speed, and elite flexibility traits for his size. Those are very impressive athleticism traits for him to have. And based on these numbers, he pretty much is exactly what you want as a prospect in terms of him. So very impressed with him. And now we've reached the point where, as we get into the top 5, however you want to rank these guys is perfectly fine. So from a data perspective, all these guards are in the same range of predictability. So in other words, they had the same percentage of success based on their data compared to everybody else. So however you want to rank the top 5 is your own business. You know, if there's a guy who's number 3 in this list, you know, no, he's a top guard. Again, he ended up in a range of possibility where he would be amongst guards that would potentially be the top guard. So in other words, they fell into a range of possibilities where they could become the top guard. So if you see your favorite guard in the top 5, that's a good thing, okay? It's not a bad thing. I'm not here to debate. It's all based on data. It's all based on the numbers. So, you know, don't draft players just based on their data scores. Watch the film too. Then we get to number 4 on this list, which is why I did all that extra disclaimers, is Troy Fenu from Washington. He has elite explosiveness and speed. Cons, age scores in the 19th percentile. His data grade is 96.52 out of 100. Again, stupid impressive. If it was 99 percentile, he would still be good. He's 96 percentile. The biggest thing dragging down his grade is his age score, but everything else is pretty fantastic for him. Taking a look at his athleticism traits, as you can see, elite explosiveness, elite speed for his size. Hasn't really done agility testing, but even if he did kind of meh in terms of agility, he would still test out pretty well in terms of data. Then we get to number 3 on this list, and Brandon Coleman from TCU. Pros, elite explosiveness and speed. Cons, doesn't really have any. Data grade 96.56 out of 100. Taking a look at his athleticism traits, 90 plus percentile in terms of his explosiveness and speed score. In many ways, he's like Troy Fenu, but younger and a little cheaper probably because of where he might go in the actual draft. But again, not trying to throw any shade at Troy. I do, based on the film that I've seen, I do kind of like him and prefer him as like the top guard in this class. But again, based on data, his age does drop him a little bit in terms of the actual data list. Then we get to number 2 on this list, which is Kingsley Taitai. I'm probably saying that right. From BYU, pros, elite speed and elite size/length. Cons, doesn't really have any. Data grade 96.80 out of 100. Very impressive profile for Kingsley. Lots of positives to look at here, so not much else to really say. When you take a look at his athleticism traits, great speed score, great explosiveness for his size. Played against fairly tough competition, has a good age score. So all those things are positives for him. And then the number 1 guard in the 2024 NFL draft class, based on data, which might be a little controversial, might start a little debate. I'd be like, well, Jim, that's a center, that's not a guard, but here. It's Tanner Bortolini from Wisconsin. Now, he did play center at Wisconsin, so he could be with the centers. He could. But I prefer him at guard, and there's a couple reasons why. One, because of his athleticism traits. I think that would be better suited to the guard position. because guards typically getting out in space, hat on a hat, those types of things are the biggest things that I like to see out of guards. So as a center, it's not to say he wouldn't be able to do that, but I think his talents would be kind of wasted at center. He has so much athleticism, which we're going to get to, that he might be wasted at center if you don't put him at guard. Now, if he plays center, great. But um, pros with him, elite athleticism overall, cons, below average arm length, data grade 98.52 out of 100. Very impressive profile for Tanner Bortolini. Now, looking at his athleticism traits, 90 percentile explosiveness, 90 percentile speed, 90 percentile flexibility for his size. Stupid, ridiculous athleticism traits for an interior offensive lineman. As I've stated a couple different times, if you view him as a center, totally get it. He played the position at Wisconsin, but he also can play guard. He has played guard at college as well as center. But I just think he would be better suited at guard compared to center based on his athleticism traits. But we'll see what happens. But overall, those were the top 10 offensive guards in the 2024 NFL Draft Class. If you want to see more videos like this, check out the videos right here. Make sure to check out my Patreon page at patreon.com/jcoburn. Also follow my X, formerly known as Twitter account, at Geometrics as well. And I will see you guys in the next episode. Peace.